Hello. Today we have Alexander Biryukov, a writer, the author of several books, one of which is not a real man. And I want to say a few words about why we invited him and why we are interested in the topic that he will cover today. Well, this topic is very close to us. If anyone does not know, the book From the Society of Statehood describes the family. Well, the problems that are present in our society, which are both within the family, and in the state, and in the world as a whole. And here is the organization that Alexander represents. He will say a few words on it now. She also covers this issue very well. And for a person who builds a mosaic picture of the world, here is what they describe in their books and articles, and in videos that many have probably seen. It is very useful to look and, well, to understand the essence of this problem. Here. And there will be several more discussions on how to build human relationships at our meeting. In other words, there is a description of the problem, yes, and there is how to solve this problem. And after Alexander tells us, we can all think together about how to solve this problem. That is, what are the ways out of these problems? Here, because in my opinion, these guys who are engaged in the production of this video content lack just, well, an idea of what we are talking about humanity and all that. And Alexander, I want to immediately present to you the information that we own, which in our opinion complements your information here. These are the books of the Authors Collective of the VP of the USSR. Well, there are videos and audiobooks on the concept of public safety. Okay, thanks a lot. That's it, I give you the floor. Hello, comrades. I will introduce myself to those who do not know me, or who did not hear me, or who drove up later. My name is Alexander Biryukov. I am a member of the Expert Council of the State Duma of the Russian Federation, candidate of medical sciences, head of the Interregional Public Organization for Family Protection. The topic that I want to tell you today is the concept in general of my next book, which is called Female Manipulation. At the beginning, let's talk with you about ways to manage people. What are the ways of managing people in general? The first is direct or open management. Well, it's clear to everyone. One person gives commands, the other executes. We see this from there since the birth of the child. When the mother orders there, tells the child to do something, it can be done there. It can't be done, gives some instructions, and we finish. And ending with the management of the state, when the president gives some order, some command, and everyone does it. Well, or they don't, depending on what is probably happening in some country. Here. And there is a hidden control. That's actually hidden control is much more interesting. The main feature hidden in the management is as follows. The one who manages does not give clear orders or directives. He doesn't say do that. He acts indirectly, directing the other person in the direction that he needs, to the channel that is needed by the one who manages. When is hidden control applied? When resistance is expected from the other side, or it already exists. There are two types of hidden controls. The first is mutually beneficial covert management. Well, let's call it mutualism. Its essence is that the one who controls and the one who is controlled, they both get some kind of interest from it, some kind of benefit, so to speak. It's beneficial for both of them. It's good for both of them. That's what they do. Well, since the book is called Women's Manipulations, we have a conversation today called Women's Manipulations. I will give examples of family life. A woman married a man, and he turned out to be, well, insecure in himself, let's say. What to do with this man? What to do? He is not sure of himself to make a decision, does not want to, is afraid of making a mistake, quits business at the first difficulty, and so on. What is a woman doing? She can throw a scandal, she can directive him to order open management. Yes, well, make a decision, you bastard. You're not a man, you're a rag there. A real man knows how to make decisions there. A real man serves his woman, but he can make it much more cunning. She, for example, will begin to praise him. Well, for some minor successes, she will praise him, encourage him, maybe exaggerate these successes in some way. A man sees positive feedback. He sees that he still knows how to make a decision. He is able to make a decision, and he is less afraid of it. He is already taking it upon himself to make a decision. And women praise him even more for this. Even if he's wrong sometime, she doesn't say, "Well, you bastard, that's a mistake. I was hoping for you. And you just made a mistake, let me down." On the contrary, she says, "It's okay, you'll improve. All this life, everything happens. It's okay. You're the main thing, you're doing everything right." Here, the man gets inspired and that's it. And he becomes a normal, strong-minded man. He knows how to make decisions in himself, he is confident, punchy. What is a plus for a man and for a woman? Well, here we see that for both men and women plus. And what are the advantages? For women, plus, it is clear that the man was a weak-willed rag, but he became normal, self-confident, who can perform the role of the head of the family completely. So not nominally, not on a piece of paper, so not virtually, but quite normally can perform this role. And what is the benefit for a man? Yes, by the fact that he was re-educated. He was a rag in general, a slug, but he became just a strong-minded man. This is mutualism, when both countries are interested in making this happen. Well, it's clear that if his wife told him to her man that "I want to re-educate you," a man would have sent her to hell, correctly said, "Do not re-educate me. I'm a grown man, I'm an adult, and she's made a kidnap." This is one of the types of hidden control. This is a good kind of hidden control. But we won't talk about such things anymore. We're going to talk about something else entirely. The second type is manipulation, which is exactly what the topic of our conversation today is dedicated to. What is the topic of the conversation? Manipulation or parasitism. The meaning of manipulation is that only the one who controls, only the one who manipulates, benefits. In other words, the manipulator benefits, and the manipulated one suffers losses, gets harm, and so on. He is a donor. Therefore, we will distinguish between such positive management mutualism and manipulation. Then let's talk about manipulations. What does any manipulation consist of? Absolutely any, regardless of whether it is female, male, and political. There is some kind of advertising, whatever. The first is to collect information about the alleged victim. Before we start manipulating a person, we need to find out what kind of person. What qualities does he have? What is he afraid of? What does he like? What does he not like? What kind of complexes does he have? Maybe open complexes, hidden complexes, something else. Does he have some character traits? What is he like in general? What buttons, levers, strings it has, for which you can pull, press, and so on. After the information about the alleged victim is collected, the manipulator chooses for himself those levers, those strings on which he will press. That is, those character traits, those inclinations, those hobbies, those may be some shadow sides of a person, that will help the manipulator manipulate this person. For one person, this is, let's say, a sexual instinct; for another, a desire for unlimited consumption; for a third, it is a fear of loneliness; for a fourth, parental feelings, and so on. It depends on what kind of person. But then a very important stage begins. If the first stage, these are the first stages, they are generally characteristic of all manipulations. Then here we are already moving on to female manipulations. It is called binding to the victim to yourself, or so in this colloquial language, it is called allure or promotions. In order to manipulate a person, you need to bind him to yourself. You need to win him over. It is necessary that the victim feels positive emotions towards the manipulator and preferably strong emotions. Well, that positive emotion that exists between a man and a woman, we call love. That is, like this, or at least sexual attraction, if love, since such a holistic concept does not work, then at least there should be such a sexual attraction. Why do I need a binding? The fact is that manipulation, any manipulation, when we are manipulated, our body subconsciously, or rather our psyche, it feels this manipulation, it feels that we are losing something. And the psyche begins to resist manipulation. In any case, in any way, the psyche feels this loss and informs the person about this loss. The forms are different, starting from a clear understanding that you are being deceived, but this is with such gifted personalities. If he sees manipulation, he understands that he is being deceived here, and ending with malaise, headache, demotivation, weakness, lethargy, apathy, depression, whatever. And so for this to be such a negative thing, but for a person to succumb to manipulation, some positive thing is needed. That would outweigh this negative one. We understand, right? If this positive is not there, then the person will feel this negative. He will simply fall off from the manipulator, disappear, and that's it. We need to throw something positive on the other side of the scale. And this is the binding. This is the positive factor that keeps the victim near the manipulator. But in this case, love is here. That is, you need to fall in love with a man, or at least sexually interest him there. Well, then everything is generally standard. The victim is tied, positively tied to the manipulator. Further compulsion to action. Compulsion is often also indirect. Although you can say directly, like, buy me fur coats there, and I'll leave you there, or there I have a friend there on the side. There, if you want to be with me, then you'll have to put up with him. Here, but it's so straight, it's head-on. This is just such a mixture of such, probably, direct directive management and manipulation. That is, first we bind a person to ourselves, and then we begin to direct them. The last stage of manipulation is to obtain the benefit effect. That is, in fact, why manipulation was all done. Why can't an inexperienced person distinguish manipulation from normal behavior, and why can't he block it right away? So sometimes they tell me, well, something like this, that here's a man, is he a sucker or something? Does he not understand that a woman is manipulating? But well, that's what a sucker means. After all, the fact is that manipulation disguises itself as a normal relationship. Look, is there a period of getting to know each other in a normal relationship? There is, of course. In any relationship, people communicate with each other and get to know each other. Absolutely, there are manipulations. There are no manipulations. It doesn't matter. Next. Is there a period of enticement in any relationship? Yes, of course there are promotions in any relationship. There is a man either caring for a woman, there he walks like a peacock in front of her. Or a woman there tries to attract the attention of a man, there they feed him borscht and so on. There is a lure, or they do it all together. There are men there walking in front of a woman like a peacock, and a woman feeds him borscht. That is, this period of the promotion, the period of the lure, it is absolutely in every relationship. Therefore, manipulation cannot be calculated before the fourth stage actually happens. This is this order of their own manipulation. So it's not suckers who are being manipulated, but inexperienced people who do not know how to recognize and block them are being manipulated. Why do women manipulate men and not the other way around? To understand this question, it is necessary to understand the male and female sexual instinct. Well, let's start with this. This means that human behavior depends on two factors, the biological factor and the social one. Biological factors are instincts. They are sown from us. We got them from our monkey ancestors. We still have them in almost unchanged form. Since the Paleolithic, these Paleolithic programs have been sown into our brains even earlier, and they still affect our behavior. That is, look, we already live in such a developed, civilized society, and the factors that affect us are still monkeys. And the second factor is a social person, a biosocial being. The second social factor is education. Education is always aimed at suppressing instincts, or rather not so much at suppressing, as at directing instinct in the right direction. And in manipulations, the sexual instinct has very important factors. A man and a woman have a very different sexual instinct. A man's sexual instinct has one component. One, he orders the man to impregnate as many women as possible. Well, or females there, if so biologically speaking females. Leave as many biological offspring as possible. In a woman, the sexual instinct acts in a completely different way. It consists of two components. The first component of this female sexual instinct is to conceive a child from the coolest man in quotes that she can reach. That is, let's say, from an alpha male. Moreover, the alpha male is not the director of the company. In the monkey house, there were no flocks of firms. This is the most violent, the most desperate, the most audacious man is so high-ranking, so highly primitive on instincts, who does not respect the law, spits on the rules there, he sneezed at everyone, he fights, drinks, has sex right and left, can't get along with anyone. Well, you understand in our society who it is, right? These are criminals, all sorts of marginals. Here, in the monkey stage, he would be the coolest, he would be the leader, right? Here, and we have this marginal prisoner, and so on. Well, nature has created a woman in such a way that her sexual instinct is tied to this alpha male. Here, well, if there is no such thing, then at least conceive from men with a high social rank. This is the first conception. But we understand that. So, something's going on there. Cookies. No one will throw cookies at me by accident. Purposefully. In the forehead, and this woman throws herself into the liver. She's in the electric car now. Everything that finished these manipulations reveals some of our female secrets. Damn, he's sitting here too. The queen. Here. So well, I continue. We understand that these here are violent, violently crazy, these alpha males, these here are ape-like. They are unfit for the family, after all. And they won't sit around one woman. They are what they call a fuck, and through yes, he slept with a woman there once or twice, there or as much as he wants there. He got fed up with her, he left her and went to another one. He has such women there with a cart. And so he is, well, he left, that's it, he's gone. And the woman stayed with the child. What should I do? And the child is difficult, uncontrollable, what kind of gent does he have? The highly primitive one actually conceived from a monkey, and you need to find a quiet, soft, weak-willed peasant who would support her with this with a violent child. This is the second part of the sexual instinct. That is, she sleeps with an alpha male to conceive, and I, and this man, this man, this man, this man, this man. This weak character, so-called medium-ranking or low-ranking, he is needed in order to support her and her offspring. And how to make a man support her. After all, you won't approach a man, lady woman, and you won't say, listen, Mr. Low-ranking man, but keep me with this frostbitten child. He'll tell you, fuck you, grandma, am I a sucker for you or something? But you need to do it differently. It is necessary to interest him and say, here I will give you something, and you will give me my child for it. And you will love me, and I will love you. Here. This is called incentive mating. Biologists call this encouraging mating. When this low-ranking or medium-ranking man buys sex for money, well, or therefore nishtiaki, for courtship, for flowers, for sweets, for restaurants, for cars, for iPhones. Here. So, when she gave it there, she gave it.
Подарил.
All that, and that's not why. What does it mean for life? In our matriarchal world right now, this is exactly what is needed for her. What does a lady mean without an iPhone? What kind of a sucker is this? She's what? What can't she do? It depends on who is looking at it. Let's not have any polemics for now, then questions. But this is a joke, of course. Here and here this man is used for the general maintenance of her. So she gives him something for that, sometimes occasionally and sometimes not. This is called incentive evaporation. And there are also low-ranking men who have neither the properties of alpha males nor coolness. They have none of this. They are quite weak-willed, and they don't have any money. If the average ranks at least have the money to buy sometimes, then these have nothing at all. They are naked as falcons. What should I do with it? But women do not ignore them either. There is a so-called friend zone, which probably everyone has heard about, right? Actually, these low-ranking men, they are the inhabitants of this very friend zone. In other words, they have no money, no resources. But the woman knows that it can be used as a free assistant, driver, chauffeur, security guard, walker, entertainer, toastmaster, repairman, furniture collector, chatterbox on the net there. Here, when she enjoyed the pleasures, there was a strong man with such a cool one. The lyrics need it. She has such a tender, sensitive nature. And where do the lyrics come from? Not from this hairy one, not from this hairy monkey. And we need to find ourselves such a lyrical one, so that he reads her poems on the internet or something else. Well, here she finds one. Cry to him there. Pump him up with her blackness. Here. The bottom of the crank even already buys not sex, but only the hope of sex. That is, the woman shakes this carrot in front of her, and he runs after her. Why men are the object of manipulation and not women? Here too, everything depends on biological reasons. Nature has made a man, first of all, physically strong, and secondly, it has made him adapted for survival in the environment. A man has strategic thinking, which a woman does not have, and women have tactical thinking. A man has physical strength. A man has a tendency to identify and apply patterns, the so-called logic, right? The woman there is completely different. Her logic is described by the formula that something is true. What is profitable is true. For a man, it is truly determined by applicability in practice, and for a woman, what is beneficial? What is dust? And the ashes? And I thought we were in Silent Hill already. Soon the pyramid-headed one will appear here from somewhere. Dynamics. Here, the fact is that a woman does not have all this, and, well, and accordingly, a man even in the modern world even has echoes. That even in the modern world, a man is better suited for obtaining resources. And look, we have all the people on the Forbes list, it's a man. This is not because we have male chauvinism, in any case, but because a man is biologically better adapted to the extraction of resources. And women are the richest, and how did they appear? They appeared as a result of the divorce. Do you understand? Here, a wife can make her husband a millionaire if he was a billionaire before, and she can get on the Forbes list. Here, and what should a woman do? She has no strategic thinking, no muscle strength. What and how to tie a man to her, force him to supply her with resources. She can't come up to him in a tambourine, give it to the scoreboard there and say, well, give me the resources, Mr. Male. He will send her to the devil. To do this, nature has endowed her with such things as manipulation. The fact is that manipulation is not some kind of such meanness. Like, let me manipulate them. Most often, it is a biological firmware. Rather, it is a biological firmware of a woman, which is most often used on autopilot. This in no way justifies manipulation, because we are not monkeys. We have to control our instincts, right? Here. But female manipulations have a biological basis. Manipulations are not invested in a man, or are invested in such a microscopic amount. And they are invested in a woman to the fullest extent, because she has no other means of controlling a man. Therefore, the average woman knows how to manipulate. Let's say from birth, she knows how to manipulate the average man. And the average man, nature has not given him any protection. Well, so that a woman can manipulate. Otherwise, manipulators will not pass, after all. Here is such a pattern. But, and here's another thing I'll say, that every man, so I'll say, average men for a woman is like an open book.
Так скажу, среднестатистический мужчина для женщины — это как открытая книга.
She sees right through him. At the same time, every woman for the average man, for a man who does not know manipulations, is a mystery shrouded in darkness. Here I have written for the average man who has no knowledge of the essence of female behavior, female manipulation, and female logic in quotation marks, that is, instinctive behavior is absolutely incomprehensible. At the same time, it does not matter at all how strong he is physically, how old he is and what post he holds. He can laugh at a stupid woman in quotes, he can play with muscles, but the fact remains. She has him in the palm of her hand, she is a mystery covered in darkness for him. A jock or a weakling, a director or a loader does not matter at all. I've given you a quote from my future book. So, who is manipulated by a woman who is not? Women do not know how to manipulate so-called high-ranking men. Because a high-ranking man has protection from female manipulators. He sees them, he feels them, he even feels them on autopilot. And he knows how to defend himself from them. So I will say that he may not even formulate it clearly, but he knows that this lady is manipulating. He will send her to hell. This lady is trying to manipulate. He may not even name it there. He may not formulate what kind of manipulation it is. He just feels it. It's instinct versus instinct. And it is manipulated by medium or low-ranking men. But any woman always tries to manipulate any man.
Любая женщина пробует манипулировать любым мужчиной всегда.
No matter what the relationship is between them, crazy love is there or she is with him for money or something else. Any man, any woman tries to manipulate any man because it is an instinctive program.
Потому что это инстинктивная программа.
Accordingly, in order not to become a victim of manipulation, in order to save the face of the head of the family, a man must be able to understand and block female manipulations. What kind of manipulations are there? So I divided them into two groups, so I will have them in the book. These are two big groups. The first group is by appearance, by how this manipulation looks, and the second such group, a large category, is by application points, what this manipulation is aimed at. Here we are still sorting out the first one. The first point of the first group is the so-called behavioral manipulation. In other words, these are simple patterns of behavior and verbal attitudes that act in parallel, with which a woman sets the format of a relationship. Most often these frameworks drive a man into a friend zone or onto the bench. That is, a woman uses a man's nishtyaks, gives him such hope for the development of relations there, say for sex, or there for some serious relationship. In fact, of course, she does not mean any of this. She just needs to get nice things from a man so that he is on the fishing rod. Well, I will give a few examples. And there are actually a lot of them. There are a lot of these types of manipulations. My book assumes pages of probably 500 in a cleaning font. Here with all descriptions, with examples, with how they look, with how to recognize them, how to deal with them. Therefore, here I only give examples so far. Well, for example, manipulation. I have a difficult character. A woman meets a man, or a man meets a woman, and a woman says, you know, suddenly I have a very difficult character. I'm like this all of myself in general. That's why you're going to have to put up with my quirks. And then the jumps actually begin. Which ones? Yes, whatever. She can do anything. He wants to cheat. He wants to walk. He wants to. Anything. Absolutely, psychosis is like this. There I don't know, there's a day crying, a day laughing, a day there with you, a day with another. You say, listen, girlfriend, what kind of show-offs in general? Did you get the Ramses mixed up or something? She says, "Friend, I think I warned you right away that I have a complex character. What did you want at all? I've told you everything honestly." You see, that's the kind of framework she puts, like either you're grinding or you're not grinding. Well, how do we react? Right. Complex character. Well, as it will be easy to come back. I don't need any difficulties with you here. If at the beginning of a relationship you talk about difficulties, what will happen next? If we still have nothing to do with you and there are no mutual problems, no children, no family, nothing, or for example, I never call men. The woman says, and I never call men. You call me, ask for it, get it, and I'll sit like a snow queen in a castle. You will achieve well, otherwise I will agree to something there. You will achieve poorly, I will not agree. And so the man begins to be a man. The man begins to get out there, to invent some kind of out-of-the-way turn out, how to please a woman. But in fact, she should please him, because relationships are a women's diocese, building relationships is a women's diocese. And what is the men's diocese? What is a man meant for? For research, for cognition, for the transformation of the world. And women are designed to build relationships, give birth, and bear children. Next. Well, here I have it written inverted resentments or induced inverted resentments. Not or, but and induced inverted resentments. Inverted grievances, what is it? The woman makes some kind of feint. The man blames her for this feint, scolds her. She says, "Fia is offended by you. You told me very rudely." Here. And it already seems like it turns out that it's not her fault for what she did, but it seems like the man is already to blame for the fact that he reproached her for it. Do you understand? Here is such an inverted offense. And induced inverted insults are when a woman deliberately makes some kind of feint, so that a man reproaches her, and she is offended. And here she is sitting offended, and the man is thinking, how can she be? How can I get her back? Then how can I get her back? Then here they told me that the woman left there 15¼ times, and the man tried to return her. So he had to not return her, he had to forget her, erase her from his life, and that was it. Just like here, a woman makes a feint, a man scolds her, she takes offense, and a man approaches her after a while, "My dear, what can I do for you? So that you forgive me." That is, it is not he who should forgive her, or not forgive her for her initial feint, but she already becomes a judge, and thinks to forgive or not to forgive. Here is such a manipulator, called an inverted offense. Then here's an example. I'm breaking up with my boyfriend right now. Here a man meets a woman, begins to meet her, get involved, get attached to her. Well, of course, we are here. These are the stages of manipulation. We have already considered them. It is necessary to bind it to yourself. And then she says to him, "Listen, I'm actually in a relationship, but we have a shitty relationship. And now I'm breaking up with my boyfriend, so let's have a relationship with you, and I'll break up with him for now." Do you understand? And the background is like this. She's having a relationship with that guy, and she wants to twist with you. Like on two fronts. Well, here's another manipulator. I have to sort myself out or I'm confused. You get acquainted with a woman, and she starts to wiggle, twist, muddle. You don't understand the fog of some kind, no certainty. You ask her, she evades something. Neither yes nor no, it's fucking clear, what's going on? She says, "You know, I have to, you know, that's something I somehow don't understand. That's how and something somehow I need to figure it out." Here's a man following her. "Well, did you figure it out?" "No, not really yet." "And now you figured it out." "Yes, something is somehow not very good." "But if I give you a typewriter there, how will you figure it out?" "Come on, give me a typewriter." He gave it to me. "Oh, you know, something something somehow I didn't really figure out." Now, if you gave me another apartment, then maybe I would have figured it out. But I exaggerate this, of course. In a good way, I have to say, well, if you don't understand, the door is out as you figure it out, come back. Well, or say nothing. Why is it needed inverted? Or, for example, I don't like when my freedom is restricted. You meet a woman, you start dating her, she says. "I went to a club with my friends. In the night. With male friends. You say, 'Listen, lady, actually we have a kind of family with you,' she says, as if I don't like it when my freedom is restricted. You know, I don't like to work, and not property in general. And in general, I do what I want. I am a free woman. We have feminism and emancipation. We don't actually have a patriarchy, and it's not the 15th century, so I went to the club. I'll be back the day after tomorrow." And you say, well, okay, what is it? You feel such horns, such antlers grow on your forehead. That's it. And in a good way to tell her, do you want freedom? Freely. Here, but in general, there are a lot of them. It's really simple. The next group is like this manipulative role-playing games. These manipulative programs are very long-lasting, which last 4 months, years. And moreover, each member of such a game plays his role most often at the will of the manipulator. Here I counted them, that I am in my life, and in the lives of people whose fate I know somewhere a few tens of thousands of destinies. Here I counted 6 pieces. 6 of them. Well, look, so the first thing is to protect me from the dragon. So there is a woman, here she plays the role of a victim, but this is the victim of the persecutor and the deliverer. Maybe someone knows, that's who is familiar with psychology, with psychiatry. Hartman's triangle here. Here, in a more general form, he describes with the Hartman triangle, but there is its own specificity. Well, protect me from the dragon. There is a woman, she is like a victim. There is a stalker, well, for example, her ex-man or, for example, her mother. And there is you, and you, in fact, claim to be the Redeemer. Such a white knight in armor. Here lives this woman, she is being chased by this evil one. It means that the evil persecutor does not let her live, harasses her, meets her somewhere there, catches her, threatens, pursues her there, calls on the phone. She turns off the phone, changes the SIM card, and he's lying in wait for her on the street, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Here she lives a poor woman with such a terrible life. So here she is a victim, and then you drive up like this on a black donkey, or on a brown ram. You're all a horseman, and you say, I'll save you. Well, or she says to you there, listen, damn it, you're a kick-ass, you're my deliverer there, save me from my evil mom, who doesn't let me self-actualize there, or there's some dad, or there's a friend of my ex, or even the devil knows from whom, and you're so full of yourself, such a winged knight, I'm going to save her from a terrible dragon. She is, well, like in fairy tales, yes, a knight saves a woman from a dragon, she becomes his loving wife for life. Here. And he, inspired by this idea, this archetype, this knight, saving the princess and imprisonment, begins to save her. Well, first there he says, listen, you change the SIM card there, then don't go there, so that he doesn't lie in wait for you there, and so on. Gives her advice, right. She says, okay, that's it, I won't. I'll do everything as you say. And here's another thing. The fact is that a woman, she herself begins to perceive this man, the deliverer, as a deliverer in fact. She can even have sexual intercourse with him. She has this archetypal deliverers in her brain. This image is here. It is paired with the sexual instinct. And he is actually this deliverer. He is like he becomes this alpha male for a while. But only for a while. I'll explain why now. So this deliverer is starting to deliver her. But he gives her advice. She does not follow them. She doesn't turn off her cell phone, or she changes her SIM card, but for some strange reason, this stalker finds out her new cell number. Then this man-deliverer goes there. He beats the face of this pursuer. Well, in general, trying to save, yes. But in fact, there is no deliverer, no victim, no persecutor. In fact, a woman benefits from this Cartman triangle, so that she is persecuted, and delivered. In fact, she has the role of this princess being saved. She is psychologically beneficial to her. This is the so-called rental behavior. She gets psychological nishtyaki from this, and maybe not even psychological nishtyaki, maybe even some financial nishtyaki. And when a man begins to destroy this system too much, because this man is the deliverer, he does not know that this system, this manipulative game, he then thinks that the woman really suffers, and one day he drives this ex away. Yes, well, roughly speaking, he will stuff his face there. So he falls off. And the woman says, listen, you bastard, how dare you beat up my ex-man? You're such a scum. I didn't think it was such an aggressive schmuck. And you see, already the deliverer becomes the pursuer of the inversion of roles, and that's it. And the woman says, That's it. I don't want to be with you anymore, and don't even come near me. I didn't think it was such a reptile that you would raise your hand against a person. That's it. The deliverer has become the pursuer. The next such manipulator protect me from myself. It's the same thing, only the woman says, I have a threshold like this. Now, if I've been attacked twice in my life by protect me from the dragon, then I've been attacked 4 times by this protect me from myself. Here I had to step on 4 rakes, so that this is to formulate what I'm telling you and protect me from myself. That's where you meet a woman, and she says, listen, I'm going to love you there. Well, there I say in summary, I will love you to death if you save me from my terrible vice there. But they put pressure on me for matriarchal upbringing. Women say I'm already tired of being brought up matriarchally. I want to live like a patriarchal weak woman, give birth to children, love a man, cook borscht, so that I am so weak. So blah blah blah. Here. Deliver me, teach me how to be a patriarchal woman, teach me how to be with a man. You're a strong man, you're the alpha male there blah blah. Well, there are epithets in general. Binding is a psychological binding. I am, yes, there I am such a white knight. That's it, I will save you, I will re-educate you, we are with you. You're going to be a super patriarchal woman. I'll teach you how to cook borscht. Here. But when the more. Here you begin to re-educate her, and you see that some kind of resistance begins from her. And the more you reform her, the stronger the resistance. One day she says to you, listen, I didn't even think he was such a tyrant. Here's a petty domestic tyrant. I asked you to re-educate, and you want to remake me. Reforge my free personality. And so, that is, in the form of a dragon, this threshold of it also appears. And when you really start, you don't understand that she doesn't need any expulsion, no re-education. She needs to be rid of something, she needs psychological nishtyaki. This is rental behavior. And when you exceed this pain threshold, when her psyche understands that you are invading some deep things, and you really want to remake her, the psyche begins to protest against this and gives the command that now you are the enemy. And that's it, and you're the enemy. She says, I didn't think he was such a tyrant. I didn't think you'd remake me like that. I thought that you would reform me in a different way gently and carefully. And you're breaking me on my knee, get out of here. It's such an abomination, disgusting. That's it. And then, the second cycle can spin, the third cycle can spin. She'll come to you again in a month, she'll say, damn, I understood everything, so I was a fool wrong, damn. Give me one last chance. Deliver me from my matriarchal upbringing, from my former boyfriend, from my terrible mother, from my dragons, deliver me. You're there, depending on whether you learned from the first time or not. Thank God, I understood from the first time in each case. But 4 times I had to have this shit hit me in the forehead. Here? So, I'm going to pause now. I forgot something a little. But the manipulations beat me. So yes, it's break me completely. That's how to call it, by the way, I had an idea. But the fact is that the phrase break me completely is called a chapter from another book. So in order not to confuse the reader's thoughts in his head, I called it beat me. So there is a victim and a savior here. So it also combines the role of a victim and a persecutor. A woman is deliberately behaving badly to provoke your anger. This is such a sadomasochistic attitude. A woman is constantly, so a woman has an internal stereotype of scum, trash, filth of a whore. And she experiences this stereotype with her subconscious for sadomasochistic pleasure. She behaves really like a whore, like trash, like scum in order for you to get her well. So that's how it's called manipulation. Beat me. Well, he didn't beat, of course, but who knows? In some pairs they beat each other. Well, let's say in such a light form, there she was scolded there, scolded, yelled at her there, and so on. And it gives her a sadomasochistic pleasure. And a woman subconsciously thinks that this recognition of herself as scum, trash, it gives her an indulgence for all sorts of bad deeds.
Всякие плохие поступки.
The indulgence of forgiveness. Well, that is right, she kind of says. I'm scum, and I have the right to do anything. What did you want from me? I'm scum. Well, this is where I look into my files here in the chapter here. I have a lot of things here. I look here because of what it happens, because of what things it all arises there.
Из-за чего это происходит, там, из-за каких там вещей там все это возникает.
How to react to this, what goals, and how to get a woman or yourself out of all of this. But I'm not going to tell you this, so as not to just load all this stuff. Here is a manipulative game called Frigid Woman. This is the name I took from Byrne, right here as it is.
Фригидная женщина. Это название я взял у Берна, прямо вот как есть.
Splagiatil, so you can only say the name of the manipulation game looks something like this.
Манипуляционная игра выглядит примерно вот как.
A woman first sexually interests a man, and then suddenly freezes her, and she abruptly refuses him. That is, she brings him to bed already, roughly speaking. They are already undressed there, and suddenly, at the very last moment, she suddenly freezes off, pushes him away, throws a tantrum with tears there with a beating in convulsions. I'm there, I don't want to, I blah blah blah. Here. But we understand that if it came to, it's come so far, as if there are some subconscious psychological things here.
Подсознательные психологические вещи.
And then it all repeats again. Men and women calm down. Again it all repeats itself. And here is such a game. That is, such a sadomasochistic pleasure too. How can we excite a man and not let him, right? Here are the emotions. Yes, these trucks are comical, but for whom are the trucks? For whom? It's comical for me to look at it from the outside right now, but for a participant it's troggy. These here, these tragic emotions, these here. But this is for women, for hysterics. We understand that this is for women with hysterical psychopathy. Normal women won't behave like that. Why do they need it? And well, this is medically speaking, this is hysteroid psychopathy, a borderline state between the norm and pathology.
Пограничное состояние между нормой и
Psychopathy is not a disease, but such a thing on the border. Well, actually, a woman needs such an ultra-strong explosion of emotions, and she does it like this over and over again. But this is a form of sadomasochism. That is, she gives pain to herself and her partner, and she gives pain to herself, because she does not have a partner as such. Do you understand? She wants to too, because she wants sex. She also has a sexual instinct, because she's not a pig, like there's an iron one. Not a stump, there's not some kind of cotton doll there. She also wants all this, but here she has this worm, which is stuck in her head, and gnawing her cerebral cortex there. He orders her to behave like this. So, well, here I am also carrying 3 carts of broken pots.
Везу 3 телеги разбитых горшков.
I am sure that a lot of men and women have faced this. That is, men have faced it, and women have behaved like this. A woman takes on supersized cases, just a bunch. That's it. She cooks, and washes, and cleans, and the children, and plasters, and interferes in her husband's affairs, and goes everywhere. Pokes her nose, and everything is done wrong. And she takes everything on herself, and tries to do it, but she doesn't succeed. Because one horse can't lead 10 teams. She can't drive a 10-car train. But if a horse puts 10 bases on itself, then it will not be lucky. It will stand and rest. She will imitate what she is driving, but she will not drive. Do you understand what the problem is? A woman clings to an excess of things, not in order to do them, but in order not to do them. In order not to do them, in order to sabotage them. Shirk work.
увильнуть от работы.
This is
Это
such a
такой
way to
способ
dodge work,
увильнуть от работы,
put on a fig of
нацеплять на
everything,
себя дофига
and
всего,
then throw
а
a
потом
tantrum.
устроить истерику.
Me.
На
The whole house
мне
rests on me.
держится весь дом.
You live there
Вы,
behind my back, blah blah.
живете там за моей спиной, бла-бла.
Roll in tears. You do everything yourself. Go to hell. I won't do anything. Well, and the last one from this group is a manipulation game called See How Hard I Tried.
Игра называется «Видишь, как я старался».
The same name is taken from Burn. A woman, but it happens more often. Here is the example that I give here, which will be in the book. It looks like this. A woman goes to reconciliation, as if she goes to reconciliation, but she is on the one hand, as if she is on the one hand, but as if she is not going. That is, men and women quarrel, yes, because of a woman. How can a woman go to reconciliation? Yes, how to approach to say there's a cute, there or Petya, Vasya, Sasha. Forgive me, listen, I was a fool. So I behaved like a complete idiot, or like a skinny idiot there, depending on how much she weighs. Here, I'm sorry, I love you, blah, blah, blah. There are hot kisses and everything that follows. Here, she's doing the wrong thing. She can like him a photo there in some social network, write some comment there, some flirty little thing in a social network. Make a dropped call on the phone. That is, here are some wagging of the tail in front of the nose like this. There seems to be it here, but it seems not to be here. It seems to be for you, but it seems to be not for you. And you don't understand what's going on. She says, listen, honey, but I tried so hard. I tried so hard. I jumped out of my pants just to attract you to me. I've been putting up little paws, wagging my tail, and writing flirtatious things. Well, you expect normal clarification of the situation from the abnormal, right? And she's just waving ribbons in front of you, so that's how she pulls the strings, so that's it. What is it for? Yes, a self-justifier, a real self-justifier, so that she wouldn't be ashamed of herself. She will say to herself, I did everything I could. I gave him as many as 12 likes under the photos. Why hasn't he come to me yet? How dare he, the bastard? So, well, let's move on to the next group. Manipulatic with this and finished. So, speech manipulation. These speech manipulations are so up to a fig that I'm going to give a couple of examples now, and that's it. Here in my book, there will be several dozen of them. Everyone knows them very well. Well, for example, here are the first unsubstantiated statements. You're arguing, so I'll tell you what speech manipulation is. These are manipulations. These are phrases that are used in a woman's disputes. Well, the so-called female logic or female demagogy, right? Here is the near female demagogy. Well, for example, there is the first one, an unsubstantiated statement. Here you are arguing there. She says, no, the way is my way. Everything will be my way. Why do you think that is? She says, a woman is always right, or what a woman wants, God wants. Yes, these vanilla quotes from the internet are stamped on your forehead like this. It doesn't seem to relate directly to the case, but she stamps it on you. These are unsubstantiated statements. The second is a reference to a stereotype. You tell her there, honey, I love you, let's move in with you there. We'll live with our family. She says, no, I don't want to. I want a registry office. I mean, why? But because everyone does it. Because that's the way it's done. You're starting to ask who? To everyone who is accepted. You see, the stereotype is like this. She will stamp this stereotype on your forehead, too. Or, for example, you tell her there's some kind of sport there. She says this is a woman kinder than men. Such a stereotype of the public, right? Women are kinder than men. But in fact, women's colonies were not even close to men's colonies, or rather men's colonies were not even close to women's colonies. There is more violence than in women's colonies, only in children's. Well, or for example, there is the issuance of analogies for evidence. Here I argue, for example, with one lady. There I say that there a man is adapted to be adapted by nature, to be the head of the family. He has strategic thinking, he has the ability to manage, let's say, and so on. She has opportunities, natural opportunities, to earn resources. She says, no, in general, a woman is more important. A woman should lead a family. I'll talk about why. She says, well, you know, here's a female praying mantis in general. She bites off the male's head. I say, well, if so, then go look for a male praying mantis. I belong to the genus, to the species Homo sapiens, and, as if in no place at all, I am not even a mantis.
В одном месте даже не богомол.
Well, I pray to God sometimes, yes. Maybe this is the only place I'm a praying mantis. Well, or for example, there are incorrect analogies there, but it's all the time. Whoever argued with the ladies on the internet knows.
Спорил с дамами, тот знает.
Why do you hate women so much? You all think it's about these things of mine that they write to me. Why do you hate women so much? Do you think everyone is manipulative? Is your mom a manipulator too? Do you think your mom is a bitch too? Well, first of all, I'm not saying anywhere that I consider all women bitches or manipulators. Secondly, what does my mother have to do with it? Yes, my mother is a woman, she also has manipulations. And I notice them too. Now, by the way, I'm noticing, and I'm talking about it. She says, yes, indeed. Here. But she is on the same wavelength with me. She has read all my books perfectly, loves them, reread them, advertises them on the internet, by the way under her own name there. Or, for example, there is a quantitative and qualitative substitution. Well, I'm going to translate there now. Everything is there. We are finishing with this now. That's because there are a lot of these speech manipulations. The number of quality substitutions. For example, women spend 500 rubles there every day on some cafes there, instead of taking them there to go to a canteen there. Or take sandwiches with them there. She spends money there for 300 rubles every day, takes them to a cafe. She gets 10,000 rubles a month there, but there's a quarter of the family budget, or there's a fifth of it. A man says to her there, listen, well, would you at least eat some sandwiches or something, but what are you, damn it, treating some uncles there for 10,000? Ah, it's not like that. She says, well, damn, did you take your sandwiches or something? Or did you eat some kind of canteen there, after all? Because the family budget is there. She says, do you feel sorry for 300 rubles for your beloved pussy? You see, 300 rubles a day and 10,000 rubles a month turns out there. But she replaces one with another and pretends that she does not spend 10,000 a month, but only 300 rubles a day. Here's a qualitatively quantitative substitution for you. So, everyone is done with this. There are a lot of them. I will not continue to say all this. So, strategic manipulation. There are also a lot of strategic manipulations. There are also about 40 of them. I will give only one, or at least two. I don't know if. But I'll give you one now first. It is called teach your husband to infidelity in the opposite sense. It is shown in one of the parables of Leo Tolstoy. How the boy shouted for fun wolf, just so these peasants resorted there with pitchforks. There is no wolf. The second time he screamed the wolf. They came running, there is no wolf. The third time I screamed again no. But the peasants scored, thinks the boy what a fucking. And when the wolf came out, the boy started yelling wolf, wolf, but no one came. Because everyone gave up on the boy. And so teach your husband to change a woman. This means what is strategic manipulation. These are very complex manipulations that consist of several steps and have a very specific purpose. That is, it's not instincts that work here anymore, but this strategy is already working here. These are the few women who have strategic thinking. They can manipulate men in this way. What is it to teach a man to cheat? Here she is, she purposely does some things, leaves some bells, alarms, so that the husband decides that his wife is cheating on him. Yes. So she's going to be late with work there. He's starting to make a scandal there, isn't he? The second time something will give him some kind of bell, right? And everything turns out that there really is nothing. She was delayed, he checked, she was delayed there, because there was a traffic jam, something else. He checked the infidelities. Something again. He checked again, no cheating, right? And that is, he gets used to the fact that these bells are all false. And then suddenly there was a bell. And another one there. There's the 10th bell there about treason. Yes, he thinks. And this is a false bell again. I will not react to it. And it turns out that the wife is really cheating. And this 10th bell was real. But the wife taught her husband that the bells were false, and he stopped responding to them. These are the strategic things, Dryachki. There are a lot of them, about 40. So let's go on. Types of manipulations by application point. Now we are finishing already. So, this is what we considered it according to the mechanism of action, and these are according to the point of application. So, the first ones are manipulations of instincts. I'm just going to talk here and give a runaway example of this, and that's it. Manipulation of instincts. Well, let's say a man's paternal instinct is strongly expressed, but how to manipulate? Yes, it's easy to blackmail children. There, do this or I will divorce you. I will take away the children. In Russia, in 97% of cases, the divorce court gives the children to the mother, regardless of the quality of the father, 97% of cases. That is, a man in Russia does not have rights to children officially from the point of view of the law. Manipulation of sexual instincts, rank instincts, and so on. Manipulation of feelings and social attitudes. Manipulation of guilt. For example, a woman pretends to be very sick and begins to manipulate a man, like, here I am sick, there you take care of, courtship, let her down, and so on. And she's actually healthy. In fact, a man should go talk to a doctor. Here he is being led to these manipulations. Well, or here's a frequent manipulator, literally, or rather, like tomorrow I have a meeting with readers in Moscow. And here one man wrote to me, tomorrow he wants to talk to me about the situation, he met a virgin, well, and they started dating. And he deprived her of her virginity, and now she manipulates him, that's how she turned out to be. Well, it's not that she turned out to be. Well, yes, you can say she turned out to be a scandalous, squalid woman, and even with attempts to go on a walk for treason here. That is, she has some kind of friends there, some incomprehensible leftists, with whom she goes there, hugs there like there. Well, in general, the fuck knows. That's something like that. The man says to her, listen, stop. She says, I won't stop. This is my life. So he says to her, well, then we're breaking up with you. She, oh, did you use me? So you took my virginity, and now you want to kick me out. That's how it is. In other words, she uses this virginity of hers, lost as a means of blackmail, a means of pressure with a sense of guilt. That is, as if she did not lose her virginity for love, but in order to, like, well, have some kind of tool, some kind of pressure on a man. That is, she believes that if a man has deprived her of her virginity, then it is. Then now he has to forgive her everything. She gets an indulgence for any abominations, and a man does not even have the right to make a remark to her. We'll deal with him tomorrow. He, by the way, is very cool on this, so he got to depression. He got to clinical depression. And tomorrow, we will deal with him about this. What kind of virgin does he have there that's so scary? With teeth, there's probably manipulation of a sense of responsibility, manipulation of a sense of affection. Well, like there do it. Or I'll leave you. Manipulation of the rules of ethics. This is where this is a real man. Here I have the penultimate book. My most important one is such a program, and it's called Not a Real Man. And now a real man is a sucker who is being manipulated, and a real man should. And this real man owes everyone, you know, to everyone and everyone, to each counter and cross, and no one owes him anything. Well, sucker. He owes everyone, but nobody owes him. This is the rules of etiquette a real man should, and so on. We are manipulating patriarchal dogmas in the era of matriarchy. Yes, so you like a man should earn, right? Therefore, your salary is the total salary, and my salary is my salary. Here, we have a patriarchy, but we have a matriarchy. Here I am a strong woman and a free woman, and don't you dare to command me. I'm not your slave, but I'm a weak woman, so provide for me, and so on. That is, here it is weak, then strong. When it benefits her, she is weak. When it benefits her, she is strong. Such a shifter, such a matriarchal patriarchal one. Well, in general, that's all it means with this disassembly. We figured it out. After a quick gallop through Europe, I told the essence of the problem. The book will be healthy, as I say. There are a lot of such psychological things that will be simple. The way of struggle, why it is necessary there, how to try there, how to translate a woman into the path of righteousness. But in general, I say that if they begin to manipulate you, and if, with some minimal applications, influences on a woman, she does not perceive your words normally. I mean, well, she pulled some kind of feint with you there, you were offended with her, right? Or maybe he told her not to do that. But if she doesn't understand in a good way, then it means that this woman is defective. She's not good for a serious relationship. That's it. Most manipulations say that a woman is really defective because if, for example, she is. No, if, for example, she uses speech manipulation, then this is understandable. All women use speech manipulation in one way or another. It is clear that she is angry there. There she begins to give some funny arguments of her own, which have nothing to do with her own argumentation. But if she starts, let's say if she. You understand that you got into a manipulative role-playing game. For example, you save her from a dragon there. Or the devil knows from someone else, there is only one way out here, otherwise your psyche will be rolled into a meat grinder. Or for example, she turns strategic manipulations with you, teaches you to change. But I, for example, would not have a relationship with such a woman who does such things like this. This is a man he is not fit for a relationship. He feels for you not love, not devotion, not loyalty, not some tender feelings. But he feels for you the same feelings that a wolf feels for a lamb approximately. Here. Something like that. Or the feelings that the worm feels for its owner. Parasitic feelings. Well, that's actually all I wanted to tell you about this topic today. Guys, we're going to ask questions now. I will say right away that the regulations are small, that only one person asks a question. Try to formulate it clearly and concisely, and not engage in polemics. That is, you have asked a question. You will get an answer the way Alexander wants to answer you, and not the way you would like to hear it. Who will ask the wrong questions? I will punch him in the forehead with a microphone. I'll tear my mouth, blink, and poke it out. Horns. And I'm knocking off the horns, but I'm a specialist in knocking off the horns so much already. What? Some of them fell off, I know about it myself. In the question, you can immediately direct. Let me, as a presenter, first also say a few words and ask a question. Well, first of all, I want to say, well, thank you to Alexander for lighting here. Please come again. You will be with us in Moscow. Come by. Okotny Ryad. On the state. One more warning. Who has not yet understood, Alexander has not studied the general theory of management enough, has not looked at the types of mental structures, that is, it is also not worth appealing to this terminology. How is it that I didn't study the structure of the psyche when I am a brain specialist? It is not the structure of the psyche that I am talking about, but the concept of public safety. Oh no, from this point of view, I do not know yes. There's terminology here, that is, it's then Sergey will download me, yes, with these sectarian things of all kinds already. Yes, he will involve me in his religion. Yes, I'm joking, of course. Here, what kind of religion is there here? Some atheists have gathered, damn it. And atheists are far away. Damn it, huh? So, now can I ask a question? Right. Well, I'm going to make a small comment first. This is what has historically developed in our society, as I realized reading your book, and... Have you read any of my books? I read the posted ones. And you haven't read the real one, have you? No, I haven't read it yet. It's just that I realized that all of this behavior and behavior algorithms that are now present, it has been formed for millennia. Millions of years. Yes, that's why if we want to enter a different culture, it's stupid to expect rapid changes. In other words, the process will go gradually. Here, we need to learn how to control our inner monkey. That's it. Education must prevail over instincts if we want to live like people and not like cattle. And that's just the question of how do you see the role of your movement, yes, which you represent. And in general, here is the process of transition to a different culture. That is, or can you give some historical examples in which there were alternative relationships? I can give historical examples when there was what exists in Russia, and after that. The states were very well and quickly bent.
когда существовало то, что существует в России, и после этого государства очень хорошо и быстро загибались.
So, well, I'll start answering the question. What are we doing? We are expanding the territory of the mind. We teach men, well, I'll say so, we teach men to be men, and we teach women to be women. That's it. Now I'm like this, so since I've been splurging here and talking business there, now it means give me a minute to get a little publicity.
Там говорил по делу, теперь, значит, дайте мне минутку попиариться немножко.
So I have 3 books. Anyone who wants can buy them. I have a website called Men's Enlightenment Male Case, less than Earl greater than. Come in, most of the materials are laid out there. Well, I mean, this is how I have a concept, that when I write a book, I put at least 2/3 of this book, well, maybe half of it, on the web so that people can get acquainted with it properly, read, understand, sort it out, and decide whether they need this book, or they don't need this book. That is, not a cat in a poke. There are about 200 articles there, actually, here on the Men's Enlightenment website of my articles. Come in, read, comment, register, write on the forum. I will be very glad. So you can find me on Contact Alexander Biryukov. Look, so the number of friends I have is more than 5,000. As you will see, such a bearded man shaved. And, well, now I have such a cute kitty standing on my avatar. Yesterday I put it for fun, so that everyone's farts were bombed. Here. Well, in general, I achieved it there. The girls began to stick together and so on. Here. As soon as you see a cute kitty or a bearded man so shaved, it means Biryukov. Come in, knock, add friends. I will be glad to communicate with you. Here. Write to, comment on it means of contact group. One group is called Alexander Biryukov Male Enlightenment. Well, remember it means Alexander Biryukov Male Enlightenment. This is actually my project. Come in there too. A lot of material is laid out. The group is lively, active. New materials are constantly being posted on the protection of men's rights, on the fight against feminism, on masculism, on some of these negative issues, right relationships, wrong relationships, and so on. I will be very glad to see you, to discuss with you, to fight. So it means a project for women. Recently, we opened a project for women with one woman. It's called Being a Woman, Being with a Man. Prepare for the release of a free electronic book. That's how it will be called. I don't know yet, but this is the working title there. How to choose a man for life. How to choose a man for life. That's it. I'm waiting for you. So we are expanding the territory of the mind. We teach a man to be a man, and we teach a woman to be a woman. Contrary to feminism, pederasty, juvenile justice, and so on. Examples of states that followed our path and disappeared without a trace. This Assyria was such a state. Some historians consider it the world's first human empire in Syria, in the interfluve of the Tigris and Euphrates. And the second state is ancient Rome, the Roman Empire. They followed exactly the same path that we are following. I won't tell you for a long time. I am turning you, referring you to my book of Fake Man. But here are the stories about Syria. It is posted online. There it is called, in my opinion, How the Syrian Civilization Perished. If you want, look through it, take a look. Here. Well, that's actually all. Unfortunately, I do not know of societies that have followed the path of matriarchal degradation, along the path of matriarchal destruction, and got out of it. I know that Iran was, once turned to the path of matriarchal degradation, but then returned to such an ultra-religious state again. Whether it's bad or good, I do not know, I do not undertake to judge. What's better is what they had there in the 60s, 70s, or what they have now. Let everyone decide for themselves. Here is a single example. But about Syria, ancient Rome, they could not get out of the path of matriarchal degradation. Therefore, I have such a sad little thought that sharpens my brain, my psyche, that no matter how Russia crosses the Rubicon, I haven't overcome this point of no return, but I'm not going to catch up with Chernuka and say that, in my opinion, I haven't overcome it yet. Still, I see that there are still courageous men, feminine women, but we will try to do something with the laws together to move this vicious matriarchal system of consumerism. That's what I call him. So that's it. What other questions does anyone have? Raise your hands before you ask. Leading question first. Here is the man with whom you will deal in Moscow. They are in an official relationship with that girl. They lived with her for a year and a half. Well, not painted. Not painted, no. They lived. Then loses. Sexual marriage. And he doesn't lose anything. He's just attached to her. She manipulates guilt. Do you understand? He feels guilty. The fact that she really was a virgin before him, and now what to do? That's it. He's just a normal, decent man. When women say all men are goats, you know that not all men are goats, and not all men are fucked and thrown there, and so on. There are some men who really feel like, yes, let me put it bluntly.
Давайте я скажу напрямик.
Men in general are more, let's say, fair people than women.
Скажем так, справедливый народ.
This is my deep conviction, and it is confirmed by scientific research. Who is interested? Again, I send books. Not a real man. Again, some kind of turns out to be solid. Well, forgive me, it's just a healthy book. There are 1.5 million characters. A little less than 1.5 million characters. A huge book really is like two doctoral dissertations. There is such a huge chapter called What a Man Differs from a Woman. There are 14 subheadings, also large subheadings, by the way. This popular science chapter is healthy. It is posted on the internet, on the net too. You can enter, drive, and how a man differs from a woman. It is on the website of Men's Education. Everything is laid out. All 14 subchapters. Here, read it. I really advise you. That's really to figure out how a man really psychologically, biologically, and psychophysiologically differs from a woman. Very many people do not know this. Well, like a lot of people, no one knows this. Even my fellow doctors, and those simply do not know many things. That's so that there's a sense of guilt. The question is, what is love in yours? So because it's about relationships. Can I make fun of you a little bit here? I have a fake man before the book came out, a book called The Anatomy of Love and Fakes. Here are the first 6 chapters devoted to the answer to the question of what love is from the point of view of biology, psychology, and the brain. It explains what it is. I can give you a rather inaccurate and difficult definition now. There it is simpler with examples, and very much like that, you know, chewed up for the layman, for a non-medic. Now I'll tell you, it's unlikely that it will give you any plus. Love is an attraction to one or another object, which, in whole or in part, implements certain motivations.
Реализует те или иные мотивации.
I don't know if this will give you a definition or not. Here in this book, everything is laid out, what motivation is and what it implements, why, how they arise there, why they are needed. That's where it's all laid out on such a household, such, let's say, amoebic level. Here. And that's how I told you to make fun of you. And this is Pragyan. I'm just doing the per today, so I have to. Here. That's it, that's it. There are still some questions. Let's be happy to answer Rinat. Probably 2 in 1. Alexander, the first question is all the cases that you describe in your books. They are sorted out after the fact, or there were some intuitive, proactive revelations there. There were proactive ones. There were, yes. There were. And approximately in what ratio? We're all here when I started doing this in 2000, about the 6th year. That's exactly what I'm doing now. I was fond of a pickup truck there before. Well, these are all such things of the bygone days of deep antiquity. Here. And when I actually started to delve into it myself, to comprehend the essence, I quickly disliked the pickup truck for a year and a half. I got over it, and realized that it was that the philosophy of the pickup truck was not the same, it was wrong, it was not creative. And I began to figure out myself how and what was what. And so, actually, in the 8th year, my first book came out, which is now a long time ago, no longer anywhere. Well, in electronic form, I can throw it to anyone. That is, after the start of their own proceedings. After starting my own proceedings, I started. I wrote the first book based on my experience and the experience of my friends. Then people came to read my book, told their stories. Someone asked for help, but like this man, who is with a virgin, yes, I tried to sort out some situations there. Something turned out, something did not work out. There were, but according to my calculations, up to 10,000 different stories, destinies. That is, it's just a huge layer of information. The ratio is, well, I'll say 95% after the fact, and 5% when the intervention helped either not to grow horns or normalize family relationships and so on. So I'll brag, I'll say again, that I have several dozen saved families on my account. When women and men turned to me for help, I told them how to actually be there. That is, well, not as a psychologist said, but so you know, as such a teacher, so strict. There he sometimes scolded them, there with censorious abuse, but with abuse. Here, so someone else has something. Are there female assistants in research, and in what form? There is, thank God. If they weren't there, I wouldn't even know what to do. I mean, I would, as Ostap Bender said, I would lose faith in humanity. There is that project to be a man, to be a woman. The contact group was created and presented to me by a woman named Alyona Smirnova, but her last name is not real. She is sitting there under a fake. In fact, her last name is different here. She created a group and gave it to me, wrote something there to give us to her teacher Alexander Biryukov, for putting me on the right path, although I didn't know her before. She took my book from somewhere. Here is not a real man read, and suddenly wrote to me. And so we have been running this project since February. We have formed such a one. Then we have material, well, in the sense that we are writing material for this free ebook, which will be posted online for such creative purposes. As how a woman should behave correctly with men. There are a lot of assistants. They began to join even at the earliest stages, there in the 7th, 8th year. When they only found out that I was doing something, well, in total, I will probably recruit 50 people. But how are they? They appeared, left, appeared, left. Also, they apparently had some kind of motivation. They helped there. Here are my women with whom I had relationships. They almost all helped me in my affairs. Here in the book Anatomy of Love and Fakes, there is a whole list of ladies and not ladies. Do you have any jobs for the younger generation? For the younger generation? Well, like here's the Anatomy of Love of Fakes, and not a real man. There is 18 plus written on the cover. But there is no porn there in general. You can start reading them at 16. 16, is it considered growing up or not? And for the younger one, I wrote a book not so long ago. It was published in March. It's called A Man's Soul Wide Open. That's how I appeared when I wrote The Anatomy of Love and a Fake Man. I realized that something was missing. That's what they asked me. Well, how did you apply your skills here? And I decided to write a book about how I re-educated myself. The fact is that my mom and dad brought me up. And they brought me up as such a right good boy, so obedient, very correct, who did not know the word no, who had to be liked by everyone, you know, by everyone and cross, by passers-by. I had to like it.
Должен был всем нравиться, всем, понимаете, каждому встречному и поперечному, каждому прохожему я был обязан понравиться.
Like this. Such a man is not a man, but a cloud of such jelly. And then one day I realized that it really strains me and warps my psyche. And I decided to reform myself. And that's how I reformed myself. That's what this book is about. In other words, it's not really a memoir, it's a book, let's say, with a methodology. And that's exactly how I re-educated myself, how I did with myself, to become from a sucker, from such a slobber, to become a normal man with a normal character, and so on. I think this is a very good thing for the younger generation. Here, this book is called The Anatomy of Love. So, the first book of The Anatomy of Love and Fakes, the second book is Not a Real Man, and the third book is A Man with His Soul Wide Open. By the way, when Sergey wrote to me, he advised me to bring a bag of these books here with me. But I followed his advice. Here in one of the cars somewhere, there's a bag of books with these lying around. Therefore, if anyone has a direct keen desire to purchase them here and now, please. If not, then read the site. There's just a lot of information there. They can eat this one site for 6 months, maybe a year. Alexander, here you are doing a good deed for humanity. Yes, from my point of view. Well, yes. I think so too. Me. Please talk. Louder. Do you hear? Yes. From my point of view, you are doing a good thing for humanity, right? Yes, I agree. I would just like to ask about your attitude to God and religion. I believe in God. I am a religious person. Rather, I'm not religious. I believe in God. I talk to Him. We have dialogues with Him sometimes. No, I'm not schizophrenic. I'm kidding, of course. I turn to Him, but He is silent. Our monologues are like this. No, well, there is an expression. Yes, when a person talks to God, it's called prayer when God talks. Yes. Well, either he's a saint, but I'm not a saint, thank God. Glory to Him. I'm not a saint. I'm a terrible sinner. Here. Yes, I am a believer, but not a religious person. I do not really strive to perform religious rites. Well, I would like to ask you, and your attitude is that there are many religious denominations. How does this apply? I can't judge. I cannot judge people because they believe in one way and not another. They know how to believe themselves. The main thing is that they do not interfere in my life, do not harm me with their religion, and how they pray at home, which God. I absolutely do not care. It is important to me that it be creative. So I believe that any religion, any ideology at all, is human. It should be aimed at creation, and if it is creative, then it is good. If it is destructive or not creative, then it is bad. For example, the ideology that we have now in our society, in our post-Christian civilization, is destructive. It is not creative. The ideology of consumerism. This is the matriarchal ideology that corresponds to the female instinct of maximum comfort here and now. Without looking to the future, without strategic thinking. This ideology with a female background, it can be said, crushed the world, subdued, or rather, not that it subdued, but it turned out that it was profitable for business. Well, you know why, right? The more people consume unnecessary things, the more we produce. The more we produce, the more profit. The more it consumes, the more profit it makes. As Chuck Palahniuk wrote, it seems that yes, a modern person works at a job that he hates in order to buy things that he does not need. That's how most people live now. This ideology is absolutely destructive. It is not creative. I will say one more thing here in my opinion. A man is an ascetic. This is certainly not Rakhmetov, who sleeps on nails there and is engaged in other forms of sadomasochism. This is an ascetic who can give up what he does not need, who buys things, or even who has things only those that he needs and needs. Not because it's fashionable, branded, it's a new model, and it's outdated, but because he needs it. That's when a person, well, in general, let's say, a person, or in our case, a man learns to live like this. Then he will actually become a man. Without that, he's a bald monkey. That's what is most important in the relationship between a man and a woman. It turns out which, more precisely, incorrectly asked it, which can best strengthen and develop them.
Что наиболее наилучшим образом может их укреплять и...
Here. So, well, in general, again you make me purr. I have a chapter in the Anatomy of Love of Fakes, called The Anatomy of Love. It is so directly called. And there are listed 12, in my opinion, or 14 properties of love. That's what should be in every love. Now, if it is, then it is love. If it is not, then it is not love. And in the book Not a Real Man, there is a chapter called How to Understand Whether a Woman Loves You or Not. That's where those behavioral tricks are listed. If they are in the behavior of a woman, she loves you. If they are not in the behavior of a woman, then she does not love you. In relation to a man, I will say that a man has love, since we cannot mirror a man into a woman and a woman into a man. A man's love is expressed differently. Here it is as she puts it, so please wait for this little book for free, which I think will be in the fall, if nothing happens. That's if these women's manipulations pass normally, if I finish them normally and pass them, and so on. In the late autumn, there will be this little book, How to Choose a Man for Life. That's where it will be described what should be on the part of a man. This is actually for women. So here it is again a long one. This is a question that requires a very long answer. Therefore, I apologize for this kind of purrs my constant one. Come on you. I'm looking at a piece of paper from you. Figachite. Do you drink alcohol? Rarely or at all? Rarely, but aptly, I am culturally a pedishik. So throw stones at me. Let me protect you with a laptop now. My forehead is hard, shaved, it's going to bounce off. I'm a cultural looper. Here. And you can do it right away. What role do you assign alcohol in a relationship between a man? The largest amount of virginity loss belongs to alcohol. So then, I drink in terms of vodka, so I'll say, half a liter a year. This is about 3, 5 or 6 times a year for a glass of wine like this, the rest of the time. I'm not drawn to alcohol at all. I have a battery of different bottles at home since those medical times when I was a doctor. There are cognacs, rums, and tequila there, figs their vodka booze. Why is he basking there? But they are worth it, and that's it. Friends come to roll 50 grams. Well, that's it, and absolutely does not pull them to open. Friends are surprised. They say, listen, friend, well, what do you have to drink this whole battery? I don't know. There are 3 buckets there, probably worth it. How did you not drink them? I say, why? I'm not drawn. Why? First of all, I have a headache after alcohol. Secondly, it is a waste of time. I'm going to be drunk tonight, and tomorrow I'm going to lie down for half a day. I'm for it, that is, a day away. I'm going to write a chapter of my new book in these days. I'm going to make some kind of script for a video clip in these days. Yes, in the end I'll sleep, take a walk there. I don't know, I'll talk to a woman and watch a movie there. I'll go somewhere there to nature. Why do I need this? This is how someone said from the ancients, voluntary madness. I don't need it at all. I only drink here in those companies where it is necessary, you know, in order to create a circle of trusting relationship of this, yes, like to confirm the status of my own. If you don't drink, then you're someone else's snitch there, and so on. And they won't reveal it. Yes, and here in business relations, here I drink most of this alcohol in some business, on some things. How am I drinking? I pour myself, let's say, there's 150 grams of wine in a glass, and sit there, and drink it for maybe 2 hours like this, under a good snack. That is, I don't even get drunk from it. Here. Well, that's so culturally pedishik. These Moscow teetotalers say that I am an alcoholic. So what else does it mean? What role does booze bring to the human brain the most negative? Booze destroys. Takes it out. Takes out the brain. And it does not contribute, it takes out. And in relation, well, who will live with an alcoholic or an alcoholic, right? Unfortunately, in Russia, for some reason, it is customary to drink. After all, Russia was the most sober state before Peter the Great, and in general, drinking was almost criminally punishable there. Passwords were beaten and even executed for drunkenness under Peter the Great. They were a little scurvy. But still up to the middle of the 19th century, in my opinion, or something like that, I can get it wrong, that Russia was. They drank less only in Norway. In Russia, they drank very little. Where did the stereotype come from that Russians mean drunk, without having the slightest idea? Here, we have who. The concept is good, but alcohol helps to have no concept. And this, by the way, is bad, because here I am a doctor, and I had contacts in the medical environment. And here one woman was writing a dissertation. She was an obstetrician-gynecologist. She is now an obstetrician-gynecologist. She studied teenagers. And so she told me such things that at about 15, 75% are not virgins. By the age of 18, 1 or 2% of virgins remain. Do you understand? And this is the loss of virginity. Most of them part of the teenage, this one. But she's actually all teenage. If they lose virgins at the age of 15, what is she like? Here it happens in a state of alcoholic intoxication, from one or more often from two sides. By the way, rape, most of the rape again happens under the degree. Murder, robbery, anything, hooligans, everything. Booze harm. This, that's it. Do you know about telegony? Telegony I know, I do not perceive, I do not. It does not find its confirmation in science. Therefore, my attitude as a doctor to her is negative. Now you. In specifics, they mentioned a man whom a woman cannot control. You called him a high-ranking man. Yes. Hi. Hi. What is hidden under the second rank at this moment? Earns a lot. No. I understand your question. Who is a high-ranking man? A man has two basic characteristics, rank and primativeness. In general, a man has two characteristics. A woman has one primitivity. Well, so men have two characteristics, rank and primativeness. Primativeness is how much behavior is controlled by instincts. Or upbringing, highly primitive, is someone who has a primate behavior. Yes. That is, a monkey, a naked monkey. The higher the primitivity, the higher the influence of instincts on behavior. The highly primitive is such an instinctive redneck, who cannot restrain himself in his hands, who is ill-mannered. He cannot suppress his instincts, neither sexual, nor rank, nor food. He can't even control urination in a human way, but he can urinate where he was caught, so he can urinate on the square. Macho. But macho is such a high-ranking alpha, such a highly primitive monkey. Here in the human stage, it would be a leader like this in the most hairy, the most muscular, such as the most aggressive. And in our society, it means human civilization in general. It developed before our time, before matriarchal degradation. And it developed in such a way that human selection took place on the basis of low primitivity, that is, what was done with highly primitive monkeys in early societies. Well, if he's violent, he can't control his instincts there. He was killed, castrated, isolated in prisons, and so on. That is, they were not allowed to reproduce. And who multiplied? A low primitive man. He also brought up his children low, primitively. That is, so that education has the maximum impact on behavior. And now, in the era of matriarchal degradation, in the era of promiscuity, primitive promiscuity, instincts are being released again in people, both women and men.
Снова высвобождаются инстинкты у людей, и у женщин, и у мужчин.
So, what is rank? This is a set of human qualities that gives him the opportunity to occupy a high social status.
дает ему возможность занять.
This is if it's very simple to say. Here I am again, the Prat-self is about to begin. Here in the book A Fake Man, there is a chapter called Rank and Primitivity. It takes about 30 pages, probably. That's where everything is described in great detail. What is rank? What is primitivity with examples, with analysis? Who is high-ranked, high-primitive, medium-ranked, medium-ranked, high-primitive? Here are all these combinations laid out there. Everything is very, very detailed. They're like this. That is, this is not a social status. Let's say, look, there's some kind of squishy mama's son there. Yes, his father is the director of the company there, or the owner of the company there. This squishy guy inherits this company, becomes its owner. Is he a high-ranking director? No, he does not acquire a biological rank. He acquires a high social status, but he has traits, character traits. His properties are the same. He is the same squishy, the same Baba slave, and so on. That's it. In other words, this is the inner content of a person. This is not always a high social status. Or let's say, here's an example, Napoleon. Let's say he came to power twice and lost his power twice. When he was at the top of power and when he lost power, did his rank change in any way? It didn't change in any way. Social status changed. Yes, rank did not. As he was high-ranked, so he was high-ranked and died on the island of Saint Helena. That's about it. So what else does anyone have? But then there are people who can control their instincts. Yes, that is, you share the motivation of these people for some kind of well. That is, there are people who suppress their instincts and direct their motivation to their own self-interest. While others are engaged in some kind of good deed, there you are. Well, this is creation here. So what else do you share besides instincts? Do you understand what's going on? If a person is low primitive, if his instincts are suppressed, then the suppressed rank instinct, and, let's say, envy, selfishness, it all comes from instincts too. Here, that is, let's say let's say white envy, what is it? How is it different from black? Black envy. Here he has it. Here he has it. Well, let me do him some harm. I'll lower him there to my baseboard level, right? And what is white envy? Here he got up. Damn it, how did he do it? Let me see how he did it. And I will rise even higher. That is, such an incentive is positive, to overtake him, not to lower him into your swamp, to push him into the mud there, in which you yourself are sitting, namely, to rise even higher. This white envy is so creative. That is, you see, we are. Here I have shown you a diagram of how you can direct an instinct from a destructive channel to a creative one. Actually, people with low primitivity suffer from this, so I will say. Guys, let's give the girls a chance to ask. Yes, by the way, let's.
That's just me. About women, that's why. That's how your opinion is. There are positive women who do not drink, do not smoke, do not walk. Virgins do not hang around there until they are 30 years old.
Well, yes, with my husband there, yes.
And they can't find a second half for themselves. But there are those who drink and drink. Well, there really are such cases. We personally have 2 girls who, as it were, have an education, a job, an apartment, and yet not.
About 3 weeks ago, Contact raised such a topic too, they asked me. Here there is such a patriarchal nyasha, she is all of herself, a virgin, a modest woman, and the daughter of a priest. And I wrote such a thing there. That's when they tell me that there is such a girl, I tell her, address her to me. I'm looking for a serious relationship. I need a patriarchal nyasha, who would consider me the head of the family, and I considered her my faithful wife. We will be faithful to each other and so on. Well, everything is as it should be in a normal family. And now you understand what kind of reaction immediately. There are people who disappear, who talk about this patriarchal nyasha, and how the wave washes away, whether they are lying, or there is no nyasha, or something else. Some people say, listen, well, actually, you should pursue it. I say, it's understandable. Another princess with a tin crown on her head of courtship and conquest. Men will be won over by a woman. Well, that's right.
Well, then what does it turn out to be?
I will say that they have some internal cockroaches, and very serious ones. This is usually the case. That is, something or they are very closed. There.
Somehow it is possible.
On the verge. On the verge of autism. Well, how can I help? To introduce a normal man to a normal man, maybe it can be somehow there. Well, depending on what kind of cockroach they have. Is that assuming she's single? That's assuming she is. Well, we're talking about singles, of course. Depending on what kind of cockroach they have, some men are afraid of them. So their mother means that I had one person write to me who says that I started dating a woman. She's a virgin, and she's kind of afraid, and so on, and this way, and that for 6 months in no way. We are already living together, and still nothing. And it turns out that her mother instilled in her that sex is dirty, immoral, disgusting. Only whores, prostitutes, and dirt and shit in general do this. And so I blocked all her femininity. That's all female eroticism, all female sexuality, and she blocked. And in general, it ended, there was a rather deplorable outcome, so in the end, they slept together after all. And the girl was depressed against the background of the rupture of this template, she was depressed. Since she subconsciously lost her virginity due to the fact that she became a fallen woman. And she had a very such severe depression, she was in a mental hospital, she did not take antidepressants. She was even treated with haloperidol. How it ended, I do not know. That's up to the mental hospital. And then I don't even know how it ended. With her mother, she could no longer find out from the relationship. Well, how did it all happen? I do not know. Or rather, so I do not remember there was something sorted out, dug well, in general like this. Either she and her mother had a fight, or her mother died, or she left, or she lived with her father. In general, somehow there were such cockroaches. There were not cockroaches in the head, but behemoths in the head were sitting here most often. This is the case that you are telling. There is some kind of flaw in a woman. Because these are such nyasha, modest virgin daughters of a priest, they are already grazed at school, so that as soon as they grow up, they are immediately under the arm and home. That's it.
One more question. And how to help manipulative women, how to help them? Yes, if...
Microphone on the forehead.
No, if they don't read books. Well, for example, you can advise them to read their own. That is, she doesn't like to read.
That is, what do you mean? How to help her manipulate something?
No.
Or how to cure her of bitchiness?
There you go.
Cure her of bitchiness.
About my sister. Here, I have a sister 1 in 1 as you tell.
Well, yes.
That's her.
The microphone in the forehead does not work.
She has a young man here. This woman is a slave, but since he can't seem to get behind her, I want to somehow help their relationship, and then help her change somehow. How can I help her?
I'll tell you this, that a woman who has embarked on the path of conscious manipulation fits one proverb. Minced meat cannot be turned back. Usually this impunity in manipulations and the habit of manipulation. And when manipulation becomes the only possible way for a woman to communicate with a man, she gets so used to it, she can't. But it's useless. It's like a drug addict, like an alcoholic. Now, if they encode from drug addiction, then there is no coding from manipulators yet. No matter how you convince her, it's profitable for her, you know. This is her benefit. When they tell you what's better for you, do you want to learn a psalm or a ginger cookie, like in Gen Air? Or is it better for you to have your head torn off or to the country, like in the movie The Foundling? Do you understand what she will choose? Of course, she will choose ginger cookies. When they say, if you manipulate, you will have nishtiyaki from men. And when you stop, you will have to do everything for a man yourself, take care of him, charm him, win him to love, and so on. She'll say, what the hell do I need this for? Let him better men run after me. There they shower me with nishtiyaks. It's better for me. So you can't cure her. You can, of course, throw my website, my books there. She will read and say, oh, well, of course, the author is just impotent. He's a fool there. He just hates all women there, as they usually say. The pyramid is lower. That's it. Yes, 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 yes. Oh yeah. This is the very bottom of this pyramid of discussion. Yes. So you can try, of course, but the stuffing can't be turned back. And also, in my opinion, there is such a thing that by engaging in other people's relationships, their relationships will lose. Yes, that's okay. I'm dealing with other people's relationships, and my own somehow normally seem to relate to someone with whom, so. Do you have a methodology? Do you have a methodology? Method, yes. She is this technique. You know how it gradually appears. It has been studied. Nah, she is. Well, she's gradually appearing. That is, let's say 3 years ago, I didn't know half of what I've come to now, and now you see. A women's project has appeared. I am very glad that there is such a woman who not only helps to recruit men's material there, but wants to convey the principle of normal relations to women. I am very happy about it. Let's ask the last question, who? How? He briefly explains in 2 words how you came to understand all this and decided to study after medicine, or after a personal relationship. Some kind of work is being done. And I decided that I needed to figure it out. I saw manipulators on myself. I saw there and there on myself. On others I saw that there were some strange twists in behavior. And how did medical education help? Medical education helped, that's exactly what it means.
What else probably started with a pickup truck?
Not.
No.
No. You know.
Technology.
Pickup, he helped me to etch out womanhood. That's how I was brought up in the ideas of womanhood. That a woman is God, that's all, that's it. And a man is created to serve a woman. Here's a real man should. Yes, and we are all without giving back. Maybe I'm a schmuck, of course. That's but, of course, too. But if women have a certain magical side. No, I don't want to delve into esotericism. It's better to let someone else ask a question. I am a scientist, and don't even come near me. At first, this one is about nuns very often. That's why those people who write there that, well, not a nun. But this girl is the daughter of a priest, and so on, in fact. The girl they had in mind actually might not know that they are someone somewhere writing, and that she has a problem, that she is not married. Quite possibly, by the way. Often people take it for her. They come up with her problems. Yes. They're making it up.
But it's closed.
But it's people who think that this is so, but in fact, she is comfortable, she is. But in fact, it's cool for her. She lives alone there, reads books, there goes for a walk, and she doesn't care, where she doesn't need a man in general. The problem. Her goal is to wait. But, yes, her goal. Maybe she's asexual at all. Maybe she's a hermaphrodite at all, who knows? And the question is this. Is it clear that you are worried about the fate of the fatherland for the fate of men? Yes, I would like to be sold in person. About nationalizing this problem, that is you. Quite certainly. Well, yes, you are related to the state authorities, respectively. You are worried about Russia in your statements. But at the same time here, of course, in general, and the planetary scale, Christian civilization is now in a state of matriarchal degradation. Europe is there in general. It has already sunk into oblivion. There with America together they are there. But within the framework of resolving this issue, there are 2 issues in one. Have you met many foreign authors, read and share most of their views, and translate your books into other languages here? So, as for foreign authors, now in the scientific world, only what passes feminist censorship is published in scientific journals. Do you understand? In addition, all scientific research is carried out on grants. All grants are subordinated to a certain ideology, and no one will give money to prove that there is a man superior to a woman in some way. No, you need to prove that a woman is superior to a man in everything. That's it. That is, people like you. It turns out that all of our science is fiction, right? Well, in the book there is not a real man who. This is this chapter posted here. It's called Men, Women, and Scientists. Posted on the internet. Find it and read it. Hefty heads. There are examples even when someone was convicted, where someone was fired from, for what statements, and so on. There, for what articles, for what scientific works, people are fired, for works that do not correspond to the matriarchal feminist ideology. Do you understand? Forms an idea. Business forms. That's so some. There is no reason why anyone has formed money, but no one has formed it. Humanity has formed it. That is, there was no Congress there in the family. At least I think there was no world conspiracy there. That is, There was no Congress. It's just that business once decided that a woman is the best buyer, and therefore, it is necessary to make sure that all finances are with a woman. So you think this is a spontaneous process? I believe that yes, this is a spontaneous economic process that just simply fell, let's say, to the court, fell to business and took it into service. How he adopted money, a bill of exchange or shares there. A spontaneous process is everything. Yes, yes. It's just that they've come to this. About translation into foreign languages. Now the book is not a real man, is being translated into German and Lithuanian. It is laid out on, respectively, German-speaking and Lithuanian-speaking sites here. But I am in favor of being translated. Therefore, if there are enthusiasts, linguists, then take it, translate, spread it. I will be only glad. We will expand the territory of the mind. And that is, so far there have been no English-speaking translators. Only here is a person who knows German perfectly, and all the people who know English perfectly were not found. That is, so, let's say, at the level of understanding, I could translate myself. I speak English and understand it, but it will not be literary, let's say, English. It will be with errors. I understand that I am not a professional translator. That is, it will be understood, but the meaning is lost. Yes, it's not that the meaning is lost, but just a sloppy translation is bad to read. Here, everyone is honored by some illiterate moron who writes how to take him seriously like that. Someone else wants to ask something. The topic is so very acute, so I understand that there are a lot of questions and Alexander is on contact. Sergey can write to him yourself. Still, if you have any questions asked, yes. Yes, if important, yes. Because I want to get it across. My heart aches for men. I want to convey this to all men. If someone writes there, someone will write to me on contact, but I will explain to one man. Then tomorrow they will write another one. I have to write the same thing to him. If anyone has any questions, I would like to answer them publicly. That's the thing. Another question then arises, that is, without any conspiracies, everything is open. There is a group of people who realize that there are instincts they can be exploited. Yes, and so, well, how does someone think that there is some kind of committee of 300 there and so on? There are certain families there. Structures are simple. Yes, I don't believe it. To do this, there is no need for any of these reptiloids from the planet Nibiru. There are no aliens there, nor any mysterious families who rule there, standing there at the helm. I believe that this is not necessary. After all, there were no families when mankind invented money. There were no families when mankind invented bills of exchange, stocks, bonds, corporations, and so on. It was not a spontaneous political and economic process of a sociologist. That's it. It's just that this one was taken by a human monkey. It was saddled and, well, or rather, as saddled. They were forced to work for a business. We realized that if we release instincts in a person, then this person will buy more. That's it. And if you redirect the cash flow from a man to a woman, then a woman, as an ideal buyer, will spend much more money than men. Not only their own, but also men. And the man. Yes, why is patriarchy bad? Because for business, because a man controls spending, and a man won't buy it. It won't buy. Yes, that's right. Why do you need it? Rational. Yes, why do you need to change smartphones twice a year if you have a phone for 1,000 rubles, ringing for 5+? And the woman, oh, my girlfriend has modern models there, and I've already had her there for a whole year. It's already outdated. I'm going to buy myself a new one, or I'm going to divorce my boyfriend. The amount. On an iPhone. Yes, that's it. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to poke. Yes, that's it. These processes shape the business. I think so, yes. And who is behind the business? Behind the business are people, entrepreneurs, yes. These are people. So it turns out who forms all these processes. I'm saying that I don't believe there was any collusion. That's it. Well, it's not a conspiracy, but it was invented by people. People, well, money people came up with, and it turns out some specific people. And the economy there, and we just don't know the last name. Let's just say this, if this is on the video for supporters of the concept. Let's leave it that since Alexander is a supporter of reason, and he must win, then any process is controlled by reason. And if someone has discovered instincts and uses them, this is still management. That is, management is unambiguous. That is, the management. But Alexander precisely focuses on the fact that he is simply in other terms. I don't believe in reptilians. Yes, this is management, but these are not the explanations. Ren TV is still somewhere that it's all wrong. That is, management of a different kind. But it's manageable. Of course, the business is quite... No, and then there's politics. Let's say why politicians are strong men. He is indignant, rebelling, and so on. He needs a weak woman slave. By the way, I have an article a week ago. I posted why the state is interested in the most painful weaning of children from men. This article was immediately scattered on a Picaboo, but I cried at all these sites, and I immediately visited the site there. And it grew tenfold. That's it. Why? And then, in order to drive a man, to drive him under the shkanka, so that he was weak and tortured. And why is it necessary? Weakened so that he does not rebel, does not resent, there are no unnecessary questions, so that he is busy, you know. As a soldier in the army, how the will of soldiers is suppressed. We need a soldier to get fucked up. There's really another word used. That's who served, he knows. They'll give him a shovel there. I don't know. One platoon digs there, the other immediately buries it. It is necessary to give a soldier absolutely useless, oppressive, hopeless, and useless work. And that he understands this futility and uselessness. That's not the root cause, is it? The root cause is not this, but for the man to be weakened, so that he is busy fighting with his ex-wife. And here they are to be opposed as much as possible, to push their foreheads so that they fight, and all the man was busy. He did not have. The sailors have no questions, so that he only goes to court from court, to court from court, to court from court. The Roman principle, dividing you, it seems to work. Absolutely, of course. Contrast, divide, crush, suppress the will with such things like this. And then what is not worth it in your opinion? Then it's basically, that is power. They're his too. Money and power that in the usual. And what is the power for? The power to command. To command, to swagger. Let's buy this planet, let's say, oxygen here, populate people, and spit on them, as it is in Kinzadza. The same thing is like this. It's all instincts, and it's a rank instinct. Comrades, is it possible to ask Alexander such a question, if Alexander ever finds out suddenly? In a year or two tonight before going to bed, he will turn to God and realize that he was mistaken in some part in some books. Or in general everything was not true. He will be able to tell people that I was wrong, comrades. Well, first of all, if I find a flaw in my book, I will simply correct it in the next edition of the book. How do I correct typos? Let's say two. It will be recognized. As it is proper for a person to make mistakes and be mistaken. And I understand that I am mistaken and mistaken somewhere. And if I understand that I am mistaken and mistaken somewhere, first of all, I am in the next edition of my book or article. I just, let's say, in an article on the internet, I just changed the text there, and that's it. There, in the next edition of the book, I will write it differently. And I really have. If you compare my first book, and let's say Not Real Men, you will see that they are very different. But they do not differ much in details, but there are a lot of these details. That is, here I was developing and coming to some new things. The things that I couldn't explain then, I can explain now. The things that I explained like this, I now explain them a little differently. And I write that it's written like this in such a book, but actually here's how to say it, so I revised my concept and realized that in fact it's a little like this. But if it's radical, I don't know, maybe I'll go to a monastery. Damn, maybe I'll become a feminist. The devil knows what will happen to me. Maybe he'll start drinking. In general, the question was made up. Do you understand the responsibility? Of course I understand. But if a person is lying and deliberately distorts the facts in order to get something there for himself, well, of course, it's his responsibility on him. But how? If a person specifically takes a kitchen knife and stabs another, he is responsible for it. He will sit down. Regardless of whether he killed a bayonet with a knife there or he killed with a kitchen knife regardless, it's the same here. If you deliberately distort the facts, if, roughly speaking, and if not on purpose, the responsibility is still great. No one absolves her of responsibility. And what to do now? I'm talking introspection. Let's kill. This thought is born. You write some thought, you reveal the topic. Introspection helps. Absolutely. As I have already explained, to reveal whether this is a personal module of my psyche, tells me or it really is. If the courts give children to mothers in 97% of cases, then this is a personal aspect, or it is an objective truth. In this particular case it is. That's it. Objective truth. Here. In this country there, in such a country, at such a moment. That's right. But there are other points. There is. Therefore, everyone should, I always say, everyone should have their head on their shoulders. You don't have to create a guru for yourself. You don't have to create an idol god for yourself. Every person, reading any book of mine, yours or another, should first of all be based on his own mind. There is such an author, Vista Vitalis. Here he wrote, "Independence in judgments and actions is the main male virtue." You see, independence of judgment. That is, whoever you read, Biryukov, Ivanov, Petrov, you must have independent thinking. You have to pass everything through your thinking, through your worldview. And not the way that Biryukov wrote, "Let's now either Ivanov, Petrov, Sidorov, let's make him an idol now, we will worship him. And if something turns out to be wrong, we will burn him, overthrow him, and so on. Don't do that. Don't put me on a pedestal. Don't throw me off. You just have to read and take note. That's it. Therefore, let's divide the responsibility in half with you." What did you say?
Raised by mom and dad. Are kind so that everyone likes you.
Yes.
As a result, you like it.
I realized that he was riding on me, that I was trouble-free, and every scum was riding on me.
And then the question is that we have a child, and I would like to know how, from your point of view, it is necessary to educate a child, so that he has
how to say?
Happy correct answer.
You are like in a nutshell like you. You won't be offended. You won't be offended if I address you again to my books, because in a nutshell I can't explain it.
But another plus is that you can have some of your own now.
Now, briefly.
Well, and
What to think about just before reading a book. To think about the fact that he is a man. Is he like a boy? Is it a girl? Think about the fact that she is a girl, not a boy. It is not necessary to vaccinate her male. Instill in her feminine, and instill in her kind and creative, so that she does not dynamite anyone, so that she does not wring out property during a divorce, so that she is generally afraid of divorces. To convince her that divorce is a terrible tragedy for the whole family, it will already be a huge plus. Because 99% of women simply do not know this. They think that divorce is such a funny little figure, so funny. For example, yesterday I was surfing the internet for something, using a contact, and I look at one lady who has something written in the status of happy differences. And I don't care, you know, a happy divorce.
And some even celebrate not the date of the wedding, but from their divorce.
You know, happy. What is a happy divorce? A happy murder. And maybe a divorce for loot. The husband's divorce for money can be. That's another thing then. Here. Probably this is a happy diversion. Divers has a completely different meaning. That's it. You see, happy terrorism, happy genocide, happy murders, happy dismemberment there, I don't know. Happiness, we rejoice. We jump, smile, and wave. For such a statistical pleasure. The transfer of a common cause was watched just by a woman and a man dedicated to a pancake. And you can also do this, but if we now have something that, let's say, most women manipulate, they have brought up such a humanity. Yes, and that's what your development will be like in the future. Well, how will they jump from manipulation to manipulation? Of course, they will manipulate. Doesn't mean. What does it mean to jump? They have manipulative firmware, and they will use the manipulation that is in this case. That is, they will develop in this way on Earth. They have such a karmic path, some kind of path of development. Until they read some book there or there. Yes, they will read and tell this author he just has problems with women, short reproductive organs, and personal problems. He writes bullshit. For how long will it continue like this all my life? All my life. And why? And it benefits her. Why would she take it? Here you see, here let me give you two alternatives. Do you work hard for money, or you don't do a damn thing, and someone gives you this money? What will you choose? But 99% and 9 in the period will choose, of course, not to do anything and get money. That's actually all. I've already given you an example. What the hell field do I have to plow and get this money if I can shake this money off my boyfriend? That's it. Or why should I surround my husband with care, warmth, love, affection? If I can make it so that he will dance around me, and I will pretend to be a snow queen, a princess, and the devil knows who there. That is, there is practically no other way out of this situation. Well, it's impossible to turn the stuffing back. And how do you want? What I'm saying is that people have learned to treat drug addiction and alcoholism, but they haven't learned to treat a bitch yet. Maybe they haven't learned yet. Maybe 4 now. Maybe there will be brains transplanted there, canine ones inserted there so that there are faithful ones. And here's Alexander. This little chip is just about lonely old age, too. Maybe it should be displayed somewhere. This is the same legislation that we have now. It leads to the fact that, let's say if women live for 14 years longer than men, a man has a pension and glued his fins together. That is, he has worked out. A year before retirement. A year before retirement. Pensions. And here it turns out a lot of lonely people. That is, and children will not return to these mothers later in old age. That is, a lot of lonely grandmothers and someone's children then participate in voluntary movements of social assistance. Go to these gods, dandelions, grandmothers who now have childless or lonely old age. But in old age they idolize themselves and say, oh youth, not the same anymore. That is, it used to be better. And your children, instead of developing their intelligence, they will build a family as volunteers. They will be emotionally inflated. And they don't care. Why doesn't grandma think about it? You see, a woman doesn't have strategic thinking. She has tactical thinking. What is pleasant to her is true. She has an instinct, maximum comfort here and now. A woman has no strategic thinking. She thinks in one-step mode. This is a man thinking through, and what will happen in 20 years, and what in 30, and what kind of children will my children grow up to be, and what will happen to a woman is not important to her. Now there is a nishtyak, that's what a fur coat was given to her there. For a certain sexual behavior, she is happy without memory. She does not think that no normal man will take her as his wife after that. He does not need her. She doesn't think about it, you know. She's not what she thinks, so let her not take it. She doesn't think about it. She doesn't have that thought in her head. She doesn't have such a chip in her head. Nature didn't give it to her. It's called strategic thinking, but a woman doesn't have this. Enjoys the fur coat. It cannot be called strategic thinking that she chooses her spouse. What does it mean? I'm already silent. Ask this question. Who rolled up on the steeper one and the spouse? Tomorrow another one will roll up, she will give another one. No, she chooses anyway. From someone. Yes, he's looking for it. She's not with everyone. There is legibility, but this is again a tactical approach, you know. She lives for today. Who's going to give her more goodies here and now? Spouse. And now only a few of us have a spouse for life. We have 80% of divorces in our country. That's the same thing. And is everyone fucking about the bowl or not? What? If she chooses a spouse for life, and is this strategic thinking or not? If she chooses a spouse for life, this is normal female thinking. She implements her biological program of a woman mother and a woman wife. That's it. In other words, this is not a strategy. And this firmware she has is like this. It's her program she follows like a spider weaves a path. But I'm saying this very rudely. Now, if biologists hear me now and they hear on the internet, they will say that Biryukov is engaged in pseudoscience. I make a reservation right away that this is a very approximate comparison. As a spider weaves a web, a woman also looks for a husband and gives birth to children. That's it. The example is very far-fetched. I'm just giving an example of such a firmware. Such a very rough firmware is not strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is strategic manipulation, which I talked about to accustom my husband to infidelity. That's strategic thinking. It is owned by units of units. Thank God. These are, you know, like such femme fatales as Lady Winter, such. That is, in general, a woman. With a strategy in mind. Very bad. And she has a strategy. She has men with strategic thinking. Nature has made it so that men and women complement each other. Why should two individuals have the same qualities, the same skills pumped? Women have tactical thinking. Men have strategic thinking. Nature will make it so that a man strives for a woman strives for a man. Together, they have both tactical and strategic thinking. That's it. like two poles of a magnet like that. That is, if she has a strategy in her head, then she will already be such a dirty trick anyway. Why not? There is here in some video, I saw such a term as a woman bringing good luck. This is when this woman is very smart, so really masculine smart, who has strategic thinking and directs it in the right direction. You know when. Does not show when, yes. This is when a woman uses her strategic thinking, not to manipulate, but to, let's say, make sure that, well, her husband gets a lucrative contract there, or there, yes, for the good of the family, yes. That is, she is someone who needs to be pitted against. Let's say she pits her husband's enemies against each other, right? What is the female wisdom called? There is no female, it can be female. You know women's dirty tricks, but they are for the benefit of the family. Here she is, let's say her husband has two enemies, but she will take them and pit them against each other, so that they are at enmity with each other there, but do not touch her husband. This is a woman's, let's say, meanness to save her thinking strategically works for the benefit of the family. I get it. That's it. That is, what goals are pursued in principle, in everything we have so. Of course. And here, whatever happens how, we are a bisexual biological species, but by combining efforts, it turns out that a man and a woman can or cannot give birth to some new quality that, if they disperse, they will lose and will not be able to reproduce. This family is called. That's it. They can bring up children. For example, a mother is not able to raise a child because she cannot convey any masculine qualities to him. She has nothing masculine in her. She cannot do this. Therefore, divorced mothers now, when they bring up children, and single mothers, they do not bring them up. There is no upbringing. So, well, I see everything right. Well and good. Thank you. And thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Now is the best upbringing. Educate yourself. It will affect the children. That's for sure. Show them the right way.